What it do, y'all? It's your girl Makeup and Travel, and for today's video your girl is here to bring you a video talking about my neutral eyeshadow palettes. Now I came about this idea because I was watching a video from Tammy's Makeup by Tammy, and she was showing all of her favorite colorful eyeshadow palettes, and I was thinking, you know, if you look at my collection, basically every palette is going to be colorful, so that might not be as helpful for you guys. So I thought more helpful video would be to show you guys specifically my neutral palettes, because for somebody like me to have a neutral palette, something has to be gripping or interesting for me to purchase it. So that's why I'm here. That's what I'm going to be doing today. I did record this look. It will be coming up eventually. It is going to be a multi-look video with my Lunar Beauty Moonspell palette, so look forward to that. I'm finally getting into that palette. I am extremely excited. So yeah, first, if you're interested in seeing the palettes that I want to talk about, then just keep watching. So I have 8 palettes. They're going to be in no rhyme or reason, but I just wanted to talk about them. So the first one, oh, and I will say a majority of these are either they are boring to me, so that's why I consider them neutral, or they have a good amount of actual browns. So that's kind of the way that I differentiated between what palettes were actually going to come in here, because I do have other palettes that have a decent amount of browns, but there's so many other vibrant colors that I just don't see the browns, if that makes any sense. So the first palette I want to talk about is actually a quad from MAC. It's the Patrick Star collaboration. It's the Goal Getter collab. This is a pretty palette, and it does have some mauve tones, but this is low-key boring to me. And I say that in the instance that it's a quad. When I see quads are very like basic Bettys, okay? They're basic Bettys. And so that's why I thought this would be a good example for a neutral palette in my collection. Reminding myself that I actually have 2 palettes in my car, in my Shop My Stash, that would actually be important for this video, and they're my 2 6-pan palettes from Viseart. I know one is in Amethyst and the other one's in Minx. The Minx one is all browns, and then the Amethyst one's all purples. Even though it's purples, to me that's a basic Betty palette because I can use that for everyday work appropriate looks. So both of those are basic Bettys. Okay. Another basic Betty in my collection is my Sassy Sienna's palette from Dose of Colors. Now, when I got this palette, everybody had been raving about this formulation, and so I decided to go for it. I think I got it from like a third party. Excuse me. I got it from a third party. As you can see, I changed the layout. I took out the like plastic organizer, and I popped all the singles out, and then I put in 2 other singles, a white so I could set my base and a black to deepen out my outer V. When I was testing this out, I didn't really like it, and I felt like it actually looked like browns on my complexion. The only 2 shades that I truly think aren't browns are these 2, and this one doesn't really work the best on my complexion, so I really only have this one. So this is a basic Betty palette for me. I do intend to kind of go back and try this again to see if I like the formulation better, because since then I have purchased another Dose of Colors palette, which is another basic Betty, and yeah, I like that one too. Next is my Dose of Colors palette, and this is the Friendcation palette, which was their collaboration with Desi Perkins and Katie. I don't know Katie's last name. So this is the palette right here, and all the mattes, basic Bettys. Ain't nothing but basic Bettys in this palette when it comes to the mattes. The shimmers, a couple of them are pretty, a couple of them are interesting, but overall this is a basic Betty palette, an everyday palette, a palette that you can wear for work. So this is definitely another palette in my collection that I think is a neutral palette. Like I said, I like this palette. I got it for like half off, and I think they had points going on Ulta too, so I got it for a very good deal. But overall, this is a basic Betty. Okay. Then we have the Too Faced Gingerbread Spice palette. This is the palette that they released last year for holiday. I asked my best friend I asked my best friend to get this for me because I knew this was a basic palette, and I was like, sis, what do you look like bringing a neutral palette in your collection? You don't even like neutrals. But I went ahead and scooped this up via her, and I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed every look that I've created with it, and it's so easily blendable, so pigmented. Even the shimmers are good. They're not as good as the gold palette, but still very good. This is another basic Betty, but she's starting to get less Betty and more Shaquanda. No, not Shaquanda. Less Betty, and she's starting to get a little better. A little better. I don't know. What's a better name than Betty? I feel like, I hope nobody's name is Betty. There's nothing wrong with Betty. It was the same name as basic. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. All right, next is the Revolution and Tammy palette, her first palette. This is a basic Betty. Okay, there's nothing around that. This is so many browns in here. It's redonkulous. And I got this because I follow Tammy. I love her, and she's a person of color, and I love to support people of color in their collaborations as much as I can. And so this is like basically a perfect everyday work appropriate palette for me. Like, I can get really good depth in that outer V, but I also can I also can get nice purple and pinky tones, and of course browns. So that's why this is the neutral palette in my collection, in my personal opinion, because it's a work appropriate palette. Next is my Soph Revolution palette, and this once again is her first palette. This is definitely, in my opinion, a better formulation than the Tammy X palette, but they're both basic Bettys, okay? The amount of browns and beiges in this palette is insane. Granted, she has a lighter complexion, so it makes more sense for her, but for me, it's insane, okay? But this is a basic Betty, okay? I think you have what, this one purple and the one pink. That's pretty much outside of the neutral tones. That's pretty much it. Yeah, you got a couple of oranges, but in the grand scheme of things, this is a brown palette. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it, but in my collection, that's a neutral palette. Then I have one of my favorite neutral palettes. These last two are actually my favorite two neutral palettes. And this one is it's my Ray Ray and BH Cosmetics collaboration. I think she did 2 collaborations with them, if I'm remembering correctly, but this is the only one that I scooped up. These eyeshadows are beautiful. They work beautifully on my complexion. There is an insane amount of browns in this basic Betty palette, but it gets a little amped up to like Betty Abrida, a basic Bella. You know how Bella's just like a, yeah, anyways, it gets bumped up a little bit because of these down here. Granted, yes, I'm only here to talk about the eyeshadow palettes, but this is the eyeshadow palette, and these down here are beautiful. I love this for a bronzer slash like a cooler bronzer or contour. This is a really good like under eye setting powder for me, and I love these 2 highlighters. They're really nice. I don't think you can get this anymore, but I'm telling you, if you were able to still get this somehow, scoop it up. It's a really good travel palette. You can get a good amount of things from this one palette, and that's less stuff that you really have to pack. And then the last palette that I have here to show you guys is a palette that I just recently talked about in my fall palette video, and this is my Zuri palette. Now, this isn't necessarily a basic Betty. I'm thinking this is more on a basic Bella vibe, but this is a neutral palette. It really is. The amount of browns and even these oranges and these the yellow, even though they look very vibrant and pan, they're very neutral toned and very earth tone once you get them on your eye. So that's why I consider this a basic Bella palette, because it's not going to really pop off your complexion, so it's going to be very easy to get away with every day, all day. So yeah, those are all the palettes that I wanted to talk to you guys about. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know down below what your favorite neutral palettes are. I would love to hear about them. Maybe these are not even neutral for you. Maybe these are like colorful for you. Maybe these are colorful for you. I would love to talk to you guys down below. I think I've been doing better keeping up with my comments. I try. But anyways, as always, y'all, it has been real. Peace.